the guests about her trip to see the King a couple of weeks ago. Since then, the thrower of the dinner party has mysteriously, apparently rung People magazine to say, oh, you got this all wrong. You know, Martha Stewart's got the wrong end of the stick. Meghan wasn't talking about all of this, da-da-da-da. In other words, allegedly, I have to say that, Meghan Markle has got her attack dogs to phone People magazine and effectively say Martha Stewart is lying. That's not true, I don't think. Do you?
No, I don't have. Martha Stewart has no reason to lie about what Meghan Markle was talking about at a dinner party. You know, I'm under the impression that when Martha Stewart shared that information, that wasn't the dig. I don't think Martha knew that Harry and Meghan were under strict protocol to keep all details secret, because this is an exercise in trust between the King and Prince Harry. The dig comes at the end when Martha basically says, I don't have a lot to say about Meghan's career trajectory, but from going from an actress to a princess to a lifestyle guru, you can say, you can do, you know, you can
it's a tough
come
journey.
to your own come to your own conclusions about that, which is the dig. You know, the dig isn't, I'm going to tell you some gossip. Meghan Markle was, the dig comes at the end. I think she's oblivious to the fact that she's getting Meghan in trouble with that information. And that's why I think that this was a sincere, organic moment. And I think it's more suspicious that an anonymous source contacts People magazine and says, no, 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 it was my dinner party, but you can't say who I am. And the speed at which said anonymous source contacts People magazine and says, I want to dispute this story.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, in the great scheme of things, I mean, you know, this is pure speculation. We don't know the facts. But I can't see that anyone else would be interested in, shall we say, correcting or attempting to correct this story, except for Meghan Markle. No one else would be that interested. Martha Stewart, meanwhile, I think her attitude is this. She's not bothered about Meghan Markle at all. Why would she be? But I think she is justifiably mildly irritated with a woman who invades her space. You know, Martha Stewart has spent a lifetime establishing herself as someone who really knows how to cook, really knows about home economics, really knows about how to be a domestic goddess. That's her skill. That's her life skill. And along comes this former actress, wannabe princess, who suddenly announces, I'm a domestic goddess and I've made a series and it's on Netflix and it's called With Love, Meghan. And then you watch it and you realise she has no idea what she's talking about. And I think Martha Stewart looks at all that and just does find it rather mildly irritating. It's not that easy to be a domestic goddess. Meghan seems to think it is.
Well, and Martha Stewart has put in decades of work. I mean, I think that her career spans my entire existence on this planet, and she is self-made. I mean, she says all the time, I don't even think I ever need to get married again. I'm completely content. Whereas Meghan clearly has the opportunities that she has because of the man that she married. And for a self-made woman, that has to be incredibly frustrating for Meghan to just pop up on the scene thanks to her husband's DNA and say, no, I'm the next Martha Stewart. And that's what we were being pitched, remember? We were pitched, here comes the second coming of Gwyneth Paltrow / Martha Stewart. For Martha Stewart, who worked so hard, blood, sweat, and tears, 24-hour days to get, and also, like, it wasn't always glamorous for Martha. Sometimes it was Martha Stewart in Kmart. You know what I mean? And Meghan Markle just pops up on the scene and Netflix invests millions of dollars into a loose fruit spread company with no bigger vision. They give her, you know, two seasons and a Christmas special of a TV show. And Martha had to do it the hard way. So I agree with your point that Martha doesn't have any personal issues with Meghan Markle, but I doubt she takes her seriously. And I bet she's really tired of being asked about her in interviews that are supposed to be about Martha Stewart. Martha was sitting down for an interview about her cover story with People magazine. And I've mentioned this a couple of times this week, and I apologize, but it's just the boldness and the courage of Martha Stewart that I really admire, because she was promoting something last year or the year before with Jose Andres, who does, this is a chef who does have an established friendship with Harry and Meghan. He appeared on With Love Meghan. Harry was recently at a restaurant opening of his in downtown LA. And Martha was critical of Meghan Markle during this junket interview sitting next to Jose Andres. And I was saying, like, I just love the fearlessness of Martha. I don't know whether she knew they had an established relationship, but she didn't care. But it's also that she's just tired of being asked about this woman when there is no relationship there. Like, stop bringing her up. She's not in my league. She's not on my level. It reminds me of Mariah Carey constantly saying about Jennifer Lopez, I don't know her.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. That, as I say, Martha Stewart is not bothered about Meghan, but she finds it quite irritating that people keep asking her about this. When Meghan's idea of being a domestic goddess is, I know, I'll make a series about it. That's about as far as it goes. Whereas, as you say, Martha Stewart spent a lifetime perfecting her skills, so it's not as easy as Meghan thinks. Let's move on. She's been our hero, the Duchess, the difficult Duchess of Sussex.
Meghan Markle has spent the last few years trying to reinvent herself. She was an actress. Then she became a duchess. Then a global celebrity. And now she wants to be a lifestyle mogul. But there's one problem. Hollywood already has plenty of lifestyle queens. And according to royal commentator Kinsey Schofield, Meghan's latest attempts to establish herself in that world may be exposing a much bigger problem with the Sussex brand. Because while Meghan is presenting herself as the next big name in lifestyle, food, entertaining and wellness, one woman has been doing exactly that for decades. Martha Stewart. And what happened when Meghan's name entered Martha's orbit has now raised some very uncomfortable questions. Was Martha simply making an innocent observation? Was she throwing subtle shade? Or did she accidentally expose the biggest weakness in Meghan's new career? Because Meghan doesn't just want to be famous anymore. She wants to be taken seriously. As a businesswoman, as a lifestyle expert, as a producer, as someone whose name can sell products. And that is a completely different game. Martha Stewart spent decades building credibility before becoming a household name. Meghan arrived in the lifestyle space with something Martha never had at the beginning of her career, a global audience already waiting for her next move. So why, despite all that attention, do some of Meghan's projects continue to raise questions about whether she can actually convert fame into lasting commercial success? That's where Kinsey Schofield's analysis gets particularly interesting. Because, according to Kinsey, this isn't just about Martha Stewart. It isn't even really about cookie queens. It's about
Sussex has been out there promoting this film that her and Harry sort of produced called Cookie Queens. Their names cropped up as executive producers. I'm not quite sure what their involvement was. It's about like girl guides, isn't it? Young girls who join the Girl Guides.
It's the competitive nature of children trying to sell Girl Scout cookies.
There you go, Girl Scouts, that's right, that's what you call them, isn't it? So, she's been out there, old Meghan, promoting this film, given interviews, and during these interviews for this film, she says that her superpower is being a mum, because all mums have superpower. She says that her daughter, Princess Lily, makes her, it's not princess anyway, is it, by the way, makes her feel brave. And she says, I feel like we have superpowers because we juggle it all and enjoy it with grace and grit at the same time. Every day when I feel a little bit like, oh gosh, can I do this? I go, Lily would do it. So do you think that Meghan's superpower is being a mum because she has to juggle so much in order to fit in parenting her children? Or do you think she has a nanny?
I think it's my understanding she has multiple nannies. I mean, I consider anyone courageous that walks around barefoot as much as Meghan Markle does, because I am fearful of athlete's foot. But I would say what she is not a superhero in is marketing and movie producing, because Page Six reports this morning that Cookie Queens crumbled at the box office over the weekend. And to quote Page Six, as the latest Hollywood misstep from the runaway royals. I think it was just $735 per screen is
God.
what Page Six reported.
Wow.
It opened at number 15, according to Box Office Pro. And that was 5 spots behind Cat Video Fest 2026, a 70-minute theatrical compilation of internet's best cat videos. So that is...
Can't beat cat videos. I mean,
behind Cat Fest.
So this is about Girl Scouts, and you know, Harry and Meghan mysteriously suddenly cropped up as the executive producers. Now, I said immediately, I said, well, why have they gone out of their way to become executive producers of this film? It's a cute little documentary. I haven't seen it myself. It's a cute little documentary about Girl Scouts, Girl Guides, as we call them here in Britain.
About a pattern where Harry and Meghan can generate enormous attention, but allegedly struggle to turn that attention into the kind of commercial impact you'd expect from two of the world's most recognizable people. And one recent project may have demonstrated that problem perfectly. Cookie Queens. On paper, it sounds almost impossible to fail. Girl Scouts, cookies, childhood, competition, nostalgia. It's practically built for an American audience. Yet the figures discussed by Kinsey paint a very different picture. The documentary reportedly opened to surprisingly modest numbers. And then came the detail that made the story even more embarrassing. The film was reportedly beaten at the box office by Cat Video Fest. Yes. A documentary about Girl Scout cookies was reportedly competing for attention with a collection of cat videos. And suddenly the question wasn't simply whether audiences liked the film. The question became, who was actually responsible for marketing it? Because Kinsey believes there was an obvious opportunity sitting right in front of them. Girl Scout cookie season. The one period of the year when millions of Americans are already thinking about Girl Scout cookies, buying them, talking about them, seeing the boxes everywhere. And yet, according to Kinsey's argument, the documentary wasn't released at the moment when public interest in the subject was naturally at its peak, which raises an uncomfortable question. How do you have access to Netflix, Hollywood professionals, celebrity connections and a global audience, and still miss something as basic as timing? And this is where the story gets much bigger than one documentary. Because Meghan's critics have been asking a similar question about her lifestyle brand. The recipes, the products, the Instagram content, the television appearances, the commercial partnerships, everything appears designed to build one thing: Meghan Markle as a lifestyle brand. But building a lifestyle brand isn't simply about looking the part. It's about creating something people actually want, something they trust, something they buy, something that survives even when the celebrity's name isn't plastered across every headline. And that's where Martha Stewart becomes such an interesting comparison. Because Martha didn't simply wake up one morning and announce, "I'm a lifestyle expert." She spent decades proving it. Cooking, gardening, entertaining, publishing, television, retail, products, business. She built the authority first. The empire came later. Meghan is attempting something very different. She already has the fame. She already has the audience. She already has the Royal Association. Now she has to convince people that she has something worth buying. And according to Kinsey Schofield, that transition may not be going as smoothly as Meghan's carefully curated image suggests. But here's where things get even more interesting. Because if Meghan is struggling to establish herself as a lifestyle authority, what exactly is Harry's role in all of this? Harry walked away from royal life alongside Meghan. He left behind his military roles, his royal patronages, his official position, his home in Britain, and eventually became part of a completely...
I mean, you know, nice, but there's no box office potential there. I knew it. Anybody can see this.
But Page Six actually argues that that's not. This is the California Post, I should stress, which is owned by Page Six. They're all in the same family.
Yeah.
They argue with you because they say in the 2003 documentary Spellbound, tonally similar, revolved around 8 kids vying for the National Spelling Bee title. That film had a per-screen average of $17,508, where I just read to you that Harry and Meghan had a 700 and something per screen. So a similar, you know, tone of children competing, and Harry and Meghan, you know, could not even bring in a percentage of that.
Yeah, well, let's listen to the difficult Duchess. This is her description of Cookie Queens. She said, "I'm going to go out on a limb and say it is one of the most powerful and meaningful depictions of something that is an American tradition and rooted in nostalgia. It is now put through this lens from the incredible creative vision of Alisa," that's the director, I assume, to show something modernized about the girlhood experience and all the layers of complexity that come with that. I mean, that's a pretty pretentious way of describing a documentary about Girl Scouts. But once again, you know, I've always said this about Meghan. She has no idea about the commercial imperative. She has no idea what interests people, what might work commercially. She gets it wrong time and time again. You know, nobody's out there going, you know what, I wish someone would do a long and boring podcast series about what it's like for a female to start a company. I mean, you know, that
or 10 of those podcasts already exist. So
yeah,
why does Meghan think that hers is going to be better? But I also think that what we're seeing is that, you know how I constantly complain to you, and I apologize, but you know how I constantly complain to you about how Meghan released With Love Meghan, and it was, don't forget that it was postponed, but she released With Love Meghan months before As Ever was physically available. That does not make sense to me from a marketing standpoint. There should have been a QR code on the screen, so while I'm watching Meghan sprinkle flower sprinkles on With Love Meghan, you know, they should have taken advantage of that to where I could have been sitting there watching it and buying it at the same time, the way TikTok Shop works. But, you know, they spoke to Jeff Bach, who's a senior media analyst, and he said, why would you not launch this documentary at the height of Girl Scout cookie season when the cookies and the girls are selling them and they're a part of the national conversation? He said, for a small documentary, timing is marketing. It missed the very window that could have made it feel relevant and turned curiosity into ticket sales. Guess that's the way the cookie crumbles. So, you know, that I thought was very clever because, yes, when you're seeing Girl Scouts here in the States on every corner and outside of dispensaries in California trying to show Girl Scout cookies, you go home and you talk about it. That would have been the perfect time to launch this film. It's like they never get it right, Kevin. And so it's common sense to some of us, but I just don't understand how they could make such huge mistakes when it comes to these projects.
I've said in the past, this is just my speculation, is the basic problem of the Sussexes that neither of them have an iota of talent to split between them. Yeah, you're about to say yes, aren't you? I mean, seriously, I just think, well, Harry hasn't got any talent, that's for damn sure. And I don't think Meghan has either. And that is rather difficult if you're trying to make your way in the ruthless world of Tinseltown. And it just ain't working for them. Another flop, another disaster. What do we make of that?
New Sussex brand. But while Meghan's career has increasingly moved toward lifestyle, Harry's identity remains tied to something very different. The monarchy, his military background, his mother, Princess Diana, Invictus, his relationship with the royal family, and his very public battles with the British press. So now you have two people, two careers, two identities, trying to operate under one brand. And perhaps that's the biggest question facing the Sussexes. Are Harry and Meghan still building one empire together, or are they slowly building two separate brands? Because the more Meghan develops her own lifestyle identity, the more Harry appears to be standing on the sidelines of it. And if that's the strategy, it may actually be smart. But if the goal was always to create a powerful Harry and Meghan brand, then something very interesting appears to be happening. The balance may be shifting. And that's exactly why this Kinsey Schofield interview is worth paying attention to. Because underneath the jokes about Martha Stewart, underneath the Cookie Queen's numbers, underneath the criticism of Meghan's marketing, there's a much bigger question. Can Harry and Meghan actually build the independent empire they promised the world they would create? Or have they become incredibly good at generating attention without quite figuring out what to do with it? And if that's the case, the next few years could be very revealing. Because fame can get you into the room, a royal title can get people to look, a Netflix deal can get you a platform. But none of those things guarantees that people will stay, watch, buy, or come back for more. And that may be the real test of the Sussex brand. And perhaps that's what makes this story so fascinating, because Harry and Meghan don't have a fame problem. They don't have an attention problem. They don't even have an access problem. People are still watching. The real question is whether they can turn all of that attention into something that lasts. Meghan wants to build a lifestyle empire. Harry wants to establish a purpose beyond his royal past. Together, they've spent years trying to create a life on their own terms, but eventually the audience has to decide whether that new identity is actually working. Because you can launch the podcast, you can sign the deal, you can release the documentary, you can post the perfectly curated photograph, you can appear on television. But at some point, the headlines stop being enough. The product has to speak for itself. And maybe that's the uncomfortable truth behind everything Kinsey Schofield said. This isn't really about Martha Stewart. It isn't really about one documentary. And it isn't even about one disappointing box office figure. It's about whether Harry and Meghan have figured out what they want to be when the royal drama is no longer the main attraction. Because the royal family gave them a story. Hollywood gave them a platform. But now they have to build the empire themselves, and that may be the hardest part. So what do you think? Is Meghan genuinely building the next great lifestyle brand? Or is she trying to step into a space where established names like Martha Stewart have already spent decades earning their authority? And when it comes to Harry and Meghan's Hollywood projects, are they simply experimenting until they find the right formula? Or is there a much bigger problem with the Sussex brand? I want to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you subscribe, because there is always another chapter in the Sussex story waiting to unfold. Until next time.